Welcome back to the Kim Baker Show, the amazing connection between horses, animals, and humans. So we're talking with Linda. I'm going to try again here. Kohanov?
That's it. Yes.
Okay. So Linda was telling us about humans and how they work with their emotions, either expressing or suppressing, and the 4 points that you have found in human nature. And she currently has her 4th book out called The Power of the Herd. And so through all of your research, your many, many years of research, you have found how we can take this information and put it back into real world experience, correct?
Yes. And, the subtitle of this book, The Power of the Herd, is a non-predatory approach to social intelligence, leadership, and innovation. The thing that's so great about working with horses is that unlike your cat or your dog, they are not predators.
Right.
And so a lot of times you'll hear people talk about horses being prey animals. Mm-hmm. In nature, they are vegetarians, and they are sometimes preyed upon by lions and other large predators. But the interesting thing about horses is that they're not quivering, gutless victims. They're actually non-predatory power animals. And a lot of people don't realize that. So for instance, in nature, it's actually not very easy for a lion or a pack of wolves to bring down an adult horse.
Right.
It's very dangerous for them to even try, especially when horses are in herds together. What they'll also do is they will protect vulnerable herd members from attack by working together to drive the predators off. And sometimes those predators are killed or injured in the process. So the really smart predators learn to hide and lie in wait until one of the weaker, more vulnerable members gets separated from the herd momentarily, and that's the animal they go after.
Right.
And so horses also, the interesting thing that people see all the time but haven't really made the connection about is that they are able to transcend basic survival instincts to go to war. The idea of a vegetarian or an herbivore going in anywhere near the scent of blood, much less the din of absolute chaos and unmitigated agony that you hear in war. Mm-hmm. A horse that was incapable of transcending basic survival instincts would never even be able to do that. You could not train a horse to do that unless they have the ability to move beyond their basic survival instincts toward a goal that is beyond their personal safety. And horses have received commendations for exceptional bravery in war. Mm-hmm. Some horses have had military honors and even full military honorable burials. It's just amazing. And so what you find with horses is that ultimately they help you step into your own power. You can't ride a horse if you don't have some level of power and leadership working for you. You can cuddle with your cat. Mm-hmm. You can cuddle with your dog. But with a horse, unless you're dealing with a naturally gentle horse, you actually have to have some level of leadership and power to work with them.
Right.
And yet it has to be a non-predatory form of power. And most people only associate power with predatory metaphors. And so there is a whole other side to power that horses teach, and I go into that in depth in this book, to learn that we can actually have a different form of power active in the world that would actually create a situation where everyone could step into power, everyone could have a fulfilling life. And horses have this marvelous way of protecting herd members while also letting members have their own individual personalities and their own individual needs met, while the needs of the group are also taken into consideration simultaneously. Mm-hmm. Whereas predatory forms of power quite often predators are simply designed to survive and even thrive at others' expense, whereas non-predatory animals and non-predatory power is about mutual aid and competition avoidance to a rather large extent.
Right.
And so I discuss some theories about evolution that show that mutual aid and competition avoidance exist in nature and were often ignored by early scientists because they were influenced by society's view of survival of the fittest, in the sense that they were misinterpreting it as survival of the physically strongest. But as it turns out, that mutual aid among species and even between species turns out to be a significant factor in the survival and success of any particular species.
Oh yeah, okay. Now you're sending me back to Arizona, to University of Arizona in Tucson, and learning, about in my ecology, in my evolutionary classes, about species that really can't exist without each other. The only way that they can exist is by having each other. I think it's symbiotic relationship. And so, yeah, this is wonderful. Now, the question that keeps coming to my mind to clarify for those listening is the non-predatory versus predatory leadership. So, examples of predatory leadership would be like a dominant or
No, actually, this is one of the other interesting things that I found that I talk about extensively in this book, is that dominance can be predatory or non-predatory.
Okay.
In herds of horses, they have a herd dominant or several herd dominants, but it's a non-predatory form of dominance.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, in herds of large animals like horses and cattle and zebras and wildebeest, is that the herd dominant and the herd leader are often two different animals.
Right.
So leadership and dominance are not necessarily blurred. Sometimes they're completely different animals. And then the herd is also held together by nurturing and companionship skills. And so to really function at a high level, emotionally and socially as a leader, it helps to understand when and how to use dominance effectively and when it's really needed, when and how to use leadership effectively and when it's needed, and then also how to engage in nurturing and companionship skills when needed. And then any kind of predatory forms of behavior can be accessed by humans. We are actually omnivores. We have characteristics of predator and prey in us. And so we have the ability to also engage in certain forms of predatory power for very specific protective purposes. But that's really the only time you need non-predatory power, is when you're dealing with others who are predatory. Or when you have to cull the herd. That is, something that is a predatory form of power. So when we have to cull those things that are no longer working, or when we're heading into a pretty severe lack of, just during the economic crisis that we recently went through,
right,
people have to decide, what are we going to cull in this business? What programs are not producing money so that the rest of the business can survive and even thrive? And that's really your predator in action, when you have to decide what programs to let go, who to lay off in order for the ecosystem of your business to survive. So yes, from a predatory power point of view, that's one of the best ways you can engage the power of the predator. Every other instance, including leadership and dominance, can be non-predatory and be much more effective as a result.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a lot deeper than than I thought it was, but it's good.
Yeah.
It really gets you thinking about this and how this applies to our existing corporate structure. Just interacting, with each other on Facebook. So yeah, the wheels are a-turning. I hope your wheels are a-turning too. So tell us more, Linda.
Well, in this book, it's actually took me 4 years to write, which is, the Tao of Equus didn't take more than 2 years at the most. And this one took me 4 years, and I know much more about writing books now. So the research that I did was really deep and very extensive. And the first part of the book, the first 12 chapters, this is like 2 books in one, to tell you the truth. The first 12 chapters talk about power and leadership and emotional and social intelligence from a historical, cultural, scientific point of view. I even look at non-predatory forms of power as they were manifested by certain well-known religious leaders who were bringing that non-predatory form of power in to the world. And then the second part of the book is 12 guiding principles, and each guiding principle is a different skill for taking non-predatory power and social intelligence into the human world. And so all of these chapters are about what we've learned from horses that actually allow you to truly excel in the human world. And previously, I did a lot of work with people experientially with horses, and then they would kind of work very hard to understand, maybe, how do I generalize this back when I take it back to the human world? And in this instance, I've created 12 guiding principles and then given actual descriptions of how specifically you begin to activate horse wisdom in purely human situations.
So the question that's coming to my mind now is that, so what happens to the world as we know it today if everyone steps into their own power? Because and I've readily said this, I'm a conspiracy theorist as far as food. We've been eating crap so that we stay sick, so that we can't, revolt against what's going on. And with the technology and just the way that our world is working now, it's like we're just kind of in our own little circle. And we don't really care so much. I mean, yeah, people watch the news and things, but that's being force-fed. They're telling us what they want us to know, and that further suppresses us even more. So it's all this suppression. So if everybody were to bust out of that and step in their true power, not going to the other extreme, right? Because it's not good to be on either extremes. So you want to have a nice balance. What would the world look like if that were to happen? I mean, would people actually be, feel better, have better relationships with themselves, with each other? Would we start having compassion for thy neighbor? Would we not be going on, these crusades of whether it's religious or political or whatever you want to put behind it? I don't know. Not that you have the answer, Linda, but I'm throwing it out there.
Well, I don't know exactly what it would look like, but I actually have the skills for everybody to become powerful together in this book. And this book does ask that question. What might we all accomplish if we finally understood how to be powerful together? Not becoming powerful and alienating others, not
Right.
becoming powerful and dominating others, not becoming powerful and then becoming a lone wolf. This is about power, the power of the herd. And, the power of the herd, that term is sometimes used, or that phrase is sometimes used to talk about the power of a herd to create fear and freak everybody out. And that kind of takes the power of the herd down a descending spiral of,
Right.
panic and unintelligent behavior. But the power of the herd, once everybody understands how to be powerful and have the social intelligence skills to understand how to be powerful together, that means the power of the herd uplifts everyone to a much higher level of functionality and creativity and innovation than we are in our current state. And so this really is about elevating everybody together to become something greater than we could ever imagine.
That would be wonderful. Wonderful that everybody would have food, everybody would have clean water, we'd all be on the same level. No pyramids. All right, we're going to take our last commercial break. Again, you're welcome to call us in the studio at 303-565-4311. You're listening to The Kim Baker Show, the amazing connection between horses, animals, and humans. We'll be right back.